Hey guys, this is Jermaine Morgan and you're watching Jermaine Morgan TV. I really appreciate you tuning in today. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few tips to help you add to and improve your funky bass line. So stay tuned. So I appreciate you guys tuning in today. I really wanted to kind of give some ideas. I know we kind of been going back to back with a different guest that we've been having on this season of Jermaine Morgan TV, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying it based on the comments. I believe that some of you are. And but what I wanted to do today, I wanted to kind of break down and dig into the bass line that you heard me playing at the beginning of the opening. And so I wanted to kind of show you what I was doing and give you some ideas as well to add to your bass line. There is a backing track. Let me say that in the beginning. There is a backing track that will be available for download for this lesson, and it will be available on JermaineMorgan.net. And while you're there, please go over and check out the monthly membership, because a lot of the stuff that I cover here on YouTube is a lot of limited information, whereas on my monthly membership, I'm constantly covering new topics. A lot of the students there email me some different things they're dealing with, and I cover them in the lessons. So every single week, I'm sending out lessons, lesson after lesson. So there's a lot of material that's being covered that you might be missing out on. So I encourage you to become a member of that. And again, it's right over on JermaineMorgan.net, along with this free backing track that's created for this lesson today. And this will be a two-part lesson. I will dig a little deeper into the lesson on the monthly membership lesson as well. So I encourage you guys to check that out while you're there. And let's get right into it. So what we got going on here, let's play this track again. It's a real funky groove. Okay, and that's the whole idea of the entire groove. I mean, and in grooves like that, the first thing is first, we want to establish the feel. We want to establish the feel. The feel is always the most important thing when we're laying down that bass line and making sure we're not getting in the way of the feel, what's going on in the track. So I noticed right off the bat when I listened to that track, it has a swing kind of feel to a real laid back swing kind of thing. This is my imaginary shaker. So I already know right off the bat that's what I'm listening for. And I'm listening to build my groove, whatever I come up with as my bass line, off of that drum pattern and what's happening. And not just the drums. If you listen rhythmically, there's a lot of stuff happening there. Rhythmically, including the guitars, that can kind of give you an idea of where to fall with your rhythmic stuff. And so the idea with this bass line is to try in a situation like this, when you have something that's already grooving that hard, you really could get away with just playing the one and you'll be just fine. I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about. Cats like, James Brown, those cats, they did it. I mean, back in the funk era, they did it all the time. You have a groove like this and they'll just ride the one and it'll be something really simple. Now see, notice I'm just playing along with the kick drum. He's on the one. He's on the 1 and the 3, and I'm just catching him on every other one, and then I'm catching the double kick that he's doing at the end of it. Again, with the groove, and when it's grooving that hard, you don't have to do much, but you really want to kind of be in tune with what's happening rhythmically there. Now, if you want to add a little more to that, you have to make sure. Now, this is the big thing that I want to get to, is you have to make sure that the stuff that you add doesn't take away from the groove, because as bass players, if we start adding too much and try to move too much, you can take away from that, the simplicity of me just playing that one over that. That simplicity of that, it feels good. I can add a little more. And right now, all I'm doing is just riding on that one and just playing with the octaves and that kind of thing. But what's making it feel a certain way is the way that I'm playing, the extra stuff that I am adding, the way that I'm playing it against the rhythm that's happening. There are things that some bass players do naturally and other bass players don't catch. And so they spend a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, what is this thing? What is making their bass playing sound different, or what's making their feel different from mine? And I would say a lot of that stuff that you're hearing a lot of times is the little ghost note stuff that happens in between. And it's harder for someone who naturally does it to explain it most of the time, because we don't pay attention to it. We just naturally do it because it might have been the culture of music that we grew up in. But I wanted to take an opportunity to kind of break some of that stuff down for you who may not grew up in like a soulful kind of background and you didn't hear all that little rhythmic stuff happening. So I'm going to try to explain to you what you're hearing, and I'll play a demonstration of what I'm talking about here. Okay, now you see how that felt different from the one where I was just playing the straight one and I wouldn't add any more to it. Now I'm getting a little more rhythmic, and the stuff that you're hearing that's making it feel a little different, I'll play it without the track. So now that you hear it with me playing it by itself, you can hear that there's a little more going on in the right hand. And I'm kind of mimicking the rhythm of that shaker or that swing feel. So that's what's going on in the right hand, and I'm syncopating that again. So it's very, very important, bass players. It's very important that you get very familiar with rhythms, understanding rhythms, listening to the rhythmic stuff that happens. I've always said anytime that a bass player, or rather a drummer, switches from drums to bass, it always has the tendency to feel good. Well, let me rephrase that. When a good drummer switches from drums to bass, their bass playing is always, it feels really good because they have a great sense of timing. Because you're kind of like, you and the drummer are kind of like the pulse and the heartbeat of the band. So when you have a really good sense of timing as a bass player, it helps you so much more because you can hear those syncopations that happen. And that basically the stuff that I'm doing with my right hand. And now I'll slow that down so you can see what I'm doing. And so again, I'll play it a little bit slower so that you can hear it and see it in context. I'm doing a little ghost note thing off of that G. And I'm in the key of C, by the way. Key of C. Tuned flat for those of you who are looking at my bass and saying, "No, you're in C sharp." No, I'm tuned flat, so my C is here. So, all right. And so this groove is a pretty simple groove. I mean, it's just we're grooving on the one with this real funky kind of feel thing. And so you can hear the rhythmic stuff that's happening in the right hand. And I'm, again, paying attention to what the drummer is doing. I always want to know what the drummer is doing or what's happening rhythmically there, because I ought to be able, as a bass player, to set the groove up without a drummer even playing, and you ought to get a sense. You ought to even be able to do that. As a bass player, you ought to be able to give a sense of what the groove should be based on what you're playing. Now, there are instances where it requires less, and people don't want all of that fill-in stuff. You know, they just want... That's all they want. And in those cases, that's fine. You just have to make sure with whatever you're doing, you make it feel good. And sometimes even when they want that, you can still get away with something like this. You can get away with. And it's that little in-between stuff that most people don't tell you about when they're giving you the licks, we're giving you the notes, everything we're playing. But that little in-between stuff is what makes the world of difference in your playing. So what I'm doing there, almost like blues. So I'm going 1, 5, flat 7, 5, 1. And that noise that you're hearing is just me dropping my fingers down on the pickup. That's all. And that's not necessary that you have to do that. I'm doing that to keep time. You know, you can do it. You can drop your finger down on the pickup, or you can drop it down on the string, either one. Slow it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so now that we have the basis, we've added a little more to just playing off of the one. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to add the extra notes that I was doing in there. So it was a... And so notice that start making the groove feel a little different when I do that. And so I'm going to play that in context so you can hear it again. And so it's just something that makes it move a little more instead of just staying right there. Instead of staying on the one the whole time, we're just moving around. And the little in-between stuff again that you're hearing, it's the ghost note stuff that's happening. And what I mean by ghost note, for those of you who don't know, is you're playing as if you're going to hit the note, but it's almost like you're hitting at the note, but you're not actually playing it. So I'm going, hit the note, almost like I'm slightly muting the note, hinting at it, but I'm not really playing it. So it's the idea of you're playing that note twice, but it's just for feel purposes. The only thing it's for is for feel purposes. And then another thing that you can do is taking that and just putting a whole different bass line with it. Another variation of a bass line. Okay, so now you can hear what I'm doing, and it's still that ghost note thing that's making it feel a certain way. So and so it's that kind of thing that's happening in the right hand. So normally when you're on like a 4 or 5 string, depending on what note you're playing on, you always kind of have that top string to pivot off of. So you're doing your ghost notes off of like just where your hands land. So I'm going, when I go to that 3, I'm not actually playing those notes, but that's the positioning of my hand. Because we're going chromatic up. Still using that ghost note kind of idea. And so it gives you another variation, but what's making it feel good is that whole ghost note idea. So all in all, you want to kind of just make sure that the stuff that you're adding, you're paying attention, whether you're playing this groove that's really swing oriented or you're playing something that's straight, you can still do the same idea with the straight groove. You just have to make sure that you kind of differentiate between whether you're playing swing or you're playing straight, and hopefully everybody knows what that means. But just in case you don't, when it's swinging, again, it's just like the groove we're playing. It got that, it got that real kind of bouncy kind of feel. But when it's straight, it's forgive my bad my bad shaker impression. So that's more straight. Versus swing. As far as creating your bass line, especially on a groove like that, you got a number of options. As you heard, we've used the just the straight. We can groove on the 1, go old school and just groove on that 1, or we can take it and move it around. And that's more like minor pentatonic type of approach. So it's more minor pentatonic. And so you have several options, or you can go the more chromatic, the walk. And you can just kind of use variations of them and just create your own bass lines. And so what I want you guys to do is, if you like this lesson, if you want to practice a little more on this idea, go to the website, go to JermaineMorgan.net, download that backing track, spend a little time, create your own bass lines. You can play over this bass line that I created, several of the bass lines that I created, and come up with some variations. Work on those ghost notes, that, and especially if you're having trouble kind of creating your groove and kind of getting that groove thing. It's a timing thing. You have to get used to it. You have to practice it and get familiar with the rhythmic stuff that's happening, and start listening a lot to the percussion players and that kind of thing. And trust me, it's going to make a world of difference in your playing. Now, if you want to get more into this lesson where we kind of break down some of the licks that you can do over this, as well as some of the stuff I was playing at the beginning, that will be in the monthly membership lesson. And I encourage you guys to become monthly members if you haven't already done that. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in to this lesson. I hope it's been helpful to you. I hope Jermaine Morgan TV has been really helpful to you. I encourage you to leave your comment below. Let me know what you think about the lesson. And yeah, And another thing, man, never feel afraid. If you got any of those backing tracks that you've downloaded from my website and you're on Instagram, Facebook, anything, tag me on it. I'm J Morgan Bass on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram and you're posting stuff up, let me hear it. Let me hear you posting something if you playing to that track. Tag me in it. If I can see it, if I can hear it, I'll repost it. And I'll love to hear what you guys come up with as far as your grooves with this. So check it out. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Take care. I'm out.